She was just a tired waitress on a rainy night. But in 30 seconds, she'd save a child, change a billionaire's life, and rewrite her own forever.
Every 45 seconds in the United States, a child is reported missing. Think about that for a second. It's not just a statistic. Is it? It's a chilling reality, a parent's worst nightmare, a silent scream echoing in the night. On the surface, that's just a grim, heartbreaking number. Until the night, a rain-soaked diner parking lot, and one broke waitress rewrote it, not just for a single little girl, but for an entire family. This isn't just a story about a hero. It's about how one moment of courage can unravel a destiny and reweave it into something utterly unexpected, something beautiful. It's about a young woman who thought she was just trying to make rent, only to find herself walking into a life she never dared to dream of, all because she chose to see, to care, and to act when others might have looked away. 17-year-old Maya Ortega had known the inside of the Lakeshore Grill for what felt like forever. Not as a customer, of course, but as a whirlwind of motion, a blur of coffee cups and spilled syrup. She'd clocked in at 5 a.m. sharp, the pre-dawn chill still biting for the breakfast rush that felt less like a rush and more like a stampede. Then she'd powered through lunch, the sticky, sweet aroma of fried onions and stale coffee clinging to her hair and uniform. And here she was at 9:30 that night, still wiping down tables, the fluorescent lights humming a tired tune over her head, because the night girl, bless her unreliable heart, had called out again. Maya sighed a tiny puff of air that barely disturbed the dust motes dancing in the artificial light. Her sneakers, once white, were now a patchwork of faded canvas and gray duct tape, each strip a testament to miles walked and shifts endured. Her last $20, a crumpled sorry square, was tucked deep into her apron pocket, a meager shield against the looming threat of overdue rent. But despite the bone-deep exhaustion, despite the ache in her feet and the gnawing worry in her stomach, every single customer who sat in her section still got the same soft, genuine smile. It was a smile that didn't just reach her eyes. It warmed them, making regulars ask for her by name, patiently waiting for her section to open up. "Maya, honey, you look like you're running on fumes." Mrs. Henderson, a sweet old lady who always ordered the tuna melt, would cluck. Maya would just shrug her smile, unwavering. "Just another Tuesday." Mrs. H, "Can I get you a refill?" She told herself the same mantra she always did, a quiet whisper against the din of the diner. One more hour, one more table, one more tip, closer to rent. It was her lifeline, her focus, the tiny beacon guiding her through the endless grind. What she didn't know, couldn't possibly fathom, was that the very next table she cleared, the next order she took, wouldn't just bring her closer to rent. No, that table would change every single tomorrow she had left irrevocably and completely. Her world, small and predictable, was about to be turned upside down, and she had absolutely no idea. The bell above the door chimed a familiar sound that usually signaled another hungry patron. But this time it felt different. A ripple went through the diner, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Maya glanced up and saw him. The man in the charcoal suit didn't just walk into the Lakeshore Grill. He commanded it. He looked like he owned the entire block, perhaps even half the city, instead of merely coming in for a meal. His presence was a palpable force, a quiet authority that drew every eye without him even trying. His name, though Maya wouldn't learn it until much later, was Victor Ashford. A titan of industry, a name whispered in boardrooms and financial districts, his net worth a staggering $3.8 billion, built on a sprawling empire of real estate cutting-edge tech, and as rumor had it, half the downtown skyline. He was the kind of man who moved through the world with an invisible shield. His personal life guarded his public persona, meticulously crafted. Across from him, a stark and delightful contrast to his stoic intensity, sat Daisy. She couldn't have been more than 7, a bright spot of sunshine in a buttercup yellow sundress. Her hair, a riot of blonde, was meticulously braided into 2 thick plaits that, with every excited wiggle, kept playfully hitting the syrup dish on the table. She was all wide-eyed innocence and boundless energy, a tiny anchor to the formidable man beside her. When Maya approached their table, clipboard in hand, Daisy giggled a pure tinkling sound as Maya, on impulse, drew a goofy smiley face in whipped cream on her pancake. It was a small, spontaneous gesture, something Maya did for all the kids, a tiny spark of joy in her otherwise monotonous day. But Victor noticed. He saw the genuine warmth in Maya's eyes, the gentle curve of her smile. He watched with an almost imperceptible flicker of surprise as Maya ever so gently steadied the plate, making sure it was perfectly within Daisy's easy reach. Most diners, particularly those in his world, would have seen that as mere service, an expected part of the transaction. But Victor, a man who built empires on observation and foresight, saw something else entirely. He saw vigilance. He saw an innate kindness paired with an unexpected attentiveness, a quiet strength that resonated deeply within him. Why did he notice? Because earlier that very day, his carefully constructed world had been shaken to its core. He'd received a chilling ransom note, a single elegant sheet of paper stamped with a lipstick kiss he hadn't seen since his ex-wife Daisy's mother had tragically passed away years ago. It was a macabre signature, a ghost from his past, resurfacing with a terrifying promise. Someone, a ghost of a memory, a shadow from his grief-filled past, planned to take the only thing he had left, the last fragile piece of his heart, his daughter Daisy. The weight of that threat pressed down on him, a cold, metallic taste in his mouth, even as he sat in the brightly lit diner, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy for Daisy. He was a man accustomed to control, to orchestrating outcomes, but this was different. This was raw, personal, and utterly terrifying. He was a billionaire, yes, but at that moment he was just a father desperately trying to protect his child. And in Maya, with her soft smile and watchful eyes, he saw a glimmer of something he desperately needed. Victor, ever the businessman, received a discreet buzz on his phone. It was a call he couldn't ignore, a critical update on a merger that required his immediate, albeit brief, attention. With a regretful glance at Daisy, he excused himself, stepping outside the diner into the cool, rain-slicked night to take the call. The moment his silhouette disappeared beyond the glass, a woman in her early 30s, dressed in a surprisingly chic but slightly out-of-place designer scarf that did a rather poor job of concealing a prominent neck tattoo, slipped into the seat he'd just vacated. She moved with an unsettling ease, as if she belonged there, as if this was her rightful place. "Sweetie," she cooed, her voice a little too saccharine, a little too forced. She reached across the table, her hand hovering over Daisy's arm. "Are you ready to go? I've got a whole new sticker book waiting for you in the car." She tried to coax Daisy, her words dripping with a false warmth, her eyes darting subtly towards the exit. Daisy, who had been happily drawing on her napkin just moments before, froze. Her bright smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty, then outright fear. She glanced instinctively at the door where her father had vanished, then back at the woman, her small face contorting with confusion. The woman's smile tightened, a thin, brittle line. Her fingers, adorned with cheap, flashy rings, dug into the child's shoulder hard enough to whiten the delicate skin beneath. It wasn't a comforting touch. It was a possessive grip. Maya, who had been refilling coffee cups at a table 2 sections over, her mind half on the endless list of tasks still to do, caught the almost imperceptible wince on Daisy's face. It was a fleeting expression, easily missed, but something about it snagged Maya's attention, pulling her away from the mundane clatter of plates and glasses. A cold, prickling sensation ran down her spine, a whisper of unease that grew into a shout in her gut. She'd seen that look before, that particular blend of fear and helplessness on her own little brother's face years ago, when their stepdad's temper flared and his hands got mean. It was a look that screamed danger, a silent plea that Maya had learned to recognize with chilling accuracy. Suddenly, the calculations of tips, the worry about rent, the endless exhaustion of her shift, all of it evaporated. Instinct, sharp and primal, eclipsed everything else. Her heart began to pound a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. Without a second thought, without conscious deliberation, she crossed the room, her duct-taped sneakers moving faster than they had all night. Her purpose was singular, unwavering: get to that child. Maya's approach was swift, silent, fueled by adrenaline. She materialized beside the table, her voice surprisingly light and conversational, belying the frantic beating of her heart. "Excuse me, ma'am. Are you family?" She kept her body subtly positioned, a shield, an unspoken barrier between the stranger and Daisy. Her eyes, however, held a steel that was anything but light. The woman, startled, bristled. She flashed a laminated badge, pulling it from a cheap-looking wallet. It was creased, the corner cracked, and Maya noticed immediately that the expiration date was clearly visible and long past. "I'm the new nanny." The woman snapped, her voice losing its sugary facade, hardening into something sharp and defensive. "Now, mind your business." Maya's pulse hammered so loud in her ears, a roaring torrent, that she almost missed it. Daisy, her eyes wide with terror, her small hand reaching out almost imperceptibly, mouthed a single desperate word. "Help." That was all Maya needed. In one fluid, practiced motion, honed by years of navigating crowded diner aisles, Maya slid the child behind her, shielding Daisy completely from the woman's view. Her left hand beneath the counter found the discreet panic button, the silent alarm that connected directly to the local police precinct. A quick, firm press. Then her voice, smooth as butter, a testament to years of customer service and forced pleasantries, spilled out a lie. "I'm so terribly sorry, ma'am, but management requires a photo match for pickup with any new staff. You know, for liability." "Total pain." "I know. Could I just see some ID that isn't older than my sneakers?" "Just a quick glance." She gestured vaguely at her worn footwear, buying precious seconds, her mind racing, calculating every angle, every potential escape route for Daisy. The woman's eyes narrowed, a cold reptilian glint replacing her earlier pretense. She knew she'd been caught. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing a raw, desperate fury. With a snarl, she lunged her hand, reaching for Daisy, who was now clinging to Maya's leg. Maya reacted instantly, yanking Daisy clear, spinning her away from the grabbing hand. In the scramble, her elbow connected with a stacked tray of dirty dishes. Glass shattered, a cacophony of breaking ceramic and clattering silverware that sliced through the diner's evening hum. Diners screamed, a wave of shock and alarm rippling through the room. The kidnapper, her plan exposed, her cover blown, bolted for the door, her heels skidding on the wet floor. But she didn't get far. Just as she burst through the entrance, 2 beat cops, alerted by Maya's silent alarm, were already there, stepping out of the rain, their hands already on their holsters. They hadn't even finished their coffee break at the station, but Maya's quick trigger had brought them running. The woman slammed straight into their waiting arms, her desperate flight ending abruptly. 30 seconds. That's all it had taken. From the moment Maya saw Daisy's wince to the sound of the handcuffs clicking. 30 seconds start to finish. Half a minute that rewrote not just one destiny, but several, intertwining them in a way no one could have predicted. The diner erupted in a cacophony of police statements, hushed witness chatter, and the frantic ring of the manager's phone. The flashing blue and red lights of the squad cars painted the rain-streaked windows in an eerie, pulsating glow. Victor Ashford, alerted by the commotion and the manager's frantic call, burst back into the grill, his face etched with a fear that even billions couldn't buy. He'd barely missed the confrontation, but the sight that greeted him, Daisy safe but trembling, clutching Maya's apron like it was the only life raft in a stormy sea, sent a tidal wave of relief washing over him. He knelt, pulling Daisy into a fierce, protective hug, his eyes scanning her for any sign of harm. Then he turned to Maya. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion, his gaze intense. He reached into his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill, offering it to her, as if to somehow compensate for the chaos, for the sheer audacity of what had just happened. "For the mess, for your trouble," he murmured, his hand extended. Maya, still buzzing with adrenaline, still feeling the tremor in her hands, simply shook her head. "No, sir. Keep your money." She managed a small, tired smile. "Just buy Daisy some crayons that don't snap, okay? That's enough for me." It was a small request, a simple gesture that spoke volumes about her priorities, her complete lack of self-interest in the face of danger. Victor's eyes, usually so guarded and impenetrable, glassed over. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something deeper, something that resonated with a distant memory. He looked at Maya, really looked at her, at the defiant set of her jaw, the unwavering kindness in her tired eyes. And in that moment, a ghost from his past flickered into sharp focus. He saw a startling resemblance, an echo of a woman he'd loved and lost. He kept a single cherished photo in a vault, a sepia-toned image from 15 years ago, his late wife at 19 volunteering at a local shelter. Her face radiant with the same fierce, unyielding kindness, the same quiet strength, the same defiant kindness. It was uncanny. He cleared his throat, his voice softer now, tinged with a vulnerability Maya hadn't expected. "What's your name, young lady?" "And your age?" he asked, his gaze still searching, still connecting the dots. Do you have anyone waiting for you at home?" Maya, caught off guard by the sudden shift in his demeanor, felt a blush creep up her neck. "Maya Ortega, sir. 17. And just me and overdue rent." I guess she admitted, laughing a little, a thin, self-deprecating sound, trying to make it sound less pathetic than it felt. The words hung in the air between them, a stark reminder of the chasm that separated their worlds. Victor, however, didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone, his thumb flying across the screen. "Get me my lawyer." Now he commanded into the receiver, his eyes still fixed on Maya. "We're fixing the first thing tonight." Maya blinked, utterly bewildered, as the rain continued to fall outside, washing away the chaos, making way for something entirely new. The next evening, Maya found herself surprisingly nervous. She'd spent the day replaying the events, the police questioning the manager's effusive praise, the curious glances from regulars. She half expected a gift card from Victor, perhaps a new car, the kind of grand, impersonal gesture rich people made. What she definitely didn't expect was for him to arrive at her tiny, run-down apartment building, a sleek black car idling quietly at the curb with a polished leather briefcase in one hand and Daisy's small hand nestled securely in his other. He didn't waste time with small talk. He simply sat on her threadbare couch, Daisy perched beside him, a crayon drawing clutched in her hand. He opened the briefcase, revealing not stacks of cash, but a neatly bound contract, its pages crisp and official. He laid out the terms, his voice calm, measured, utterly serious. "Maya, he began what you did yesterday. It wasn't just brave. It was extraordinary. You saved my daughter's life, and for that I am eternally grateful." He paused, his gaze meeting hers, unwavering. "I'm offering you a full-ride college fund. Any university you choose, any major. On top of that, a salary as Daisy's part-time companion. Not a nanny, Maya. A companion. Someone she trusts. Someone who makes her laugh." Maya stared, her mind reeling. This was already more than she could have ever dreamed. But then Victor continued, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "And because I know you, Maya, because I saw that fierce independence in your eyes, I also know you'll insist on earning every dime. So this isn't charity. This is a partnership. You'll have housing in the guest cottage of my estate. It's private, it's comfortable, and you have the option to walk away at any time. No strings attached, Maya. Only boundaries." He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "Keep Daisy safe. Keep her secrets. Keep her kind. That's all I ask. I'll handle the lawyers, the trust fund vultures who will inevitably circle the tabloids that will try to twist your story. All I want in return is the peace of knowing that someone like you, someone who would risk herself for nothing, will now have the resources to keep risking herself for my everything." Maya's knees, already weak from the shock, felt like they might buckle right there on the worn linoleum of her tiny kitchen floor. She'd walked into the Lakeshore Grill for another grueling shift, hoping for a decent tip to cover rent. She was leaving not with a paltry $20, but with a family charter drafted on embossed letterhead, an entire future laid out before her. It wasn't just an offer. It was an invitation. An invitation to a life she couldn't have imagined, an invitation to a family she didn't know she was missing. The weight of it, the sheer magnitude of the transformation, was almost too much to bear. She looked at Daisy, who was now holding out her crayon drawing, a lopsided picture of 3 stick figures holding hands. And in that moment, Maya knew. Her life, the one filled with duct-taped shoes and overdue bills, was over. A new one, terrifying and exhilarating, was just beginning. The Ashford estate wasn't just big, it was an entire world unto itself. 12 sprawling, meticulously manicured acres protected by imposing gates and a security detail that made Maya's tiny apartment building feel like a forgotten relic. The guest cottage, her new home, was larger than her entire previous apartment, a charming stone structure nestled amidst ancient oak trees. But it was the main house that truly took her breath away. Marble floors polished to a mirror sheen stretched endlessly in every direction, feeling like ice under her worn thrift store shoes the first morning. Every surface gleamed, every object bespoke a history of wealth and impeccable taste. It was a stark, almost disorienting contrast to the greasy, familiar scent of fryer oil that had permeated every fiber of her being for so long. Daisy, however, seemed utterly unfazed by the grandeur. She bounded into Maya's cottage, a whirlwind of morning energy, and practically dragged her to the main kitchen, a cavernous space that looked more like a professional culinary studio than a home cooking area. "Breakfast is a cupcake today," Daisy declared, her eyes sparkling, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "Dad lets me on Saturdays." Maya chuckled, a genuine, unburdened sound that felt foreign and wonderful. She watched Victor from the doorway, leaning against the frame, his phone already buzzing with the relentless demands of his empire. Ransom negotiations for other ventures, no doubt a constant reminder of the high-stakes world he inhabited. Yet he still made time for Daisy's cupcake Saturdays. Maya had braced herself for scorn, for the inevitable whispers and judgmental glances from the estate staff. "Who is this stray?" the boss dragged home. She imagined them thinking. But what she received was entirely different. The butlers, impeccably dressed and quietly efficient, addressed her as Miss Ortega, their respect palpable. The chefs, a team of culinary artists, asked her what her favorite foods were, not as a polite formality, but with genuine interest. And the head housekeeper, a formidable but kind woman named Mrs. Gable, tucked a fresh, crisp apron into Maya's hand, her eyes warm. "You saved our smallest heartbeat, dear," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You'll always belong here." That night, alone in her luxurious guest cottage surrounded by Egyptian cotton sheets that felt impossibly soft against her skin, Maya cried. But these weren't the tears of poverty and despair she was accustomed to. These were tears born of an alien sensation, safety. It was a profound, overwhelming feeling, the kind that settles deep in your bones and rearranges your understanding of the world. She was safe. Daisy was safe. And for the first time in her life, Maya felt like she truly belonged, not just to a job or a struggle, but to a place, to a purpose, to a new beginning. The air no longer smelled of fryer oil, but of jasmine and possibility. 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks into her new life, a life that felt like a dream she hadn't earned when the past decided it wasn't quite done with her yet. It arrived uninvited and unwelcome in the form of her stepfather, Ray. He appeared at the imposing estate gate, a disheveled figure against the pristine backdrop, smelling distinctly of cheap whiskey and even cheaper threats. He'd seen the blurry tabloid photos, the sensational headlines about the Waitress hero and the billionaire's gratitude. And with the predatory instinct of a shark sensing blood, he'd recognized her. The brat who cost him rent money, he'd snarled to the security guard demanding to see her, demanding his share. He wanted $50K in hush cash, a ransom of his own, or he'd sell Maya's location. Her story, every sordid detail he could invent, to every creep with a camera, every gossip blog desperate for a new angle. The estate's state-of-the-art security footage captured the entire tirade. Ray's slurred demands, his aggressive posturing, the venomous glint in his eyes. Victor watched the recording in his study, his face unreadable, his jaw tight. He didn't hesitate. He instructed security to let Ray in, but directly to his study, and alone. Maya, hearing the commotion, her blood running cold at the sound of Ray's voice, rushed to Victor's side, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. "Victor, please don't let him hurt you," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Victor simply placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Maya. Some doors need a permanent lock." 10 minutes, that's all it took. 10 minutes behind the closed, soundproof doors of Victor Ashford's study. When Ray emerged, he was a different man. His bluster had evaporated, replaced by a sickly pallor and a profound, unsettling silence. He was white-faced, his eyes wide with a fear Maya had never seen him display. He clutched a cashier's check in one hand, a significant sum. But it wasn't the hush cash he'd demanded. It was earmarked for a reputable rehab facility in Arizona alongside a one-way bus ticket. In his other hand, he held a thick, legally binding NDA, a non-disclosure agreement he couldn't even read, let alone understand, but which he had signed with a shaking hand. He didn't make eye contact with Maya. He just shuffled past her, a broken man, and disappeared back through the gates, never to be seen or heard from again. Victor never told Maya what he said to Ray in that study. He simply reiterated, Some doors need a permanent lock, Maya, and some bullies need to learn a different kind of language. For the very first time in her life, Maya watched someone out-bully her bully. She had always known survival, had always known how to duck and weave and endure. But in that moment, watching Victor dismantle Ray with quiet, devastating precision, she realized something profound: protection could be a far louder, far more powerful language than mere survival. It was a revelation, a seismic shift in her understanding of power, of safety, and of what it truly meant to be cared for. Life at the Ashford estate settled into a rhythm, one Maya quickly discovered was both demanding and deeply fulfilling. She wasn't just a companion to Daisy. She was a student again, a mentee, and most importantly, a burgeoning member of a family. Maya enrolled in community college, choosing a business major, a decision that surprised even herself. "If I'm going to steward a kid's world," she'd explained to Victor, a wry smile playing on her lips, "I should probably speak spreadsheet." She attacked her studies with the same fierce determination she'd once applied to balancing her budget and enduring endless diner shifts. Late nights were spent poring over textbooks, the quiet hum of the estate, a stark contrast to the noisy, frantic energy of her past. Her academic pursuits, however, were punctuated by the far more delightful and often hilariously challenging demands of Daisy. Bedtime stories became a nightly ritual, a sacred time for bonding. Daisy, a connoisseur of children's literature, demanded nightly readings of Rosie Revere Engineer, her favorite, with voices optional but always encouraged. Maya found herself practicing her character voices in the shower, trying to perfect the quavering tones of Rosie's great-great-aunt Rose and the booming pronouncements of the zookeepers. Between cramming for finals and navigating the chaotic, glitter-strewn world of finger painting, Maya learned that even billionaires with all their power and influence still battled the universal toddler tactic of bedtime stall tactics. "Just one more chapter, Maya. Please, please, please," Daisy would plead, her eyes wide and irresistible. One Thursday evening, as Maya tucked Daisy into her elaborate canopy bed, a question soft and poignant floated into the quiet room. "Maya," Daisy whispered, her voice barely audible, "do you think heaven has vending machines? Because Mom might be hungry?" The question hung in the air, heavy with a child's grief and innocent curiosity. Maya's heart ached. She sat on the edge of the bed, choosing her words carefully, her answer soft, honest, and full of the hopeful maybes that children often need. She spoke of wishes and stars of love that transcended earthly boundaries, and of how Daisy's mom would always be with her in her heart. Daisy listened, her small face pensive. Then she reached up her tiny fingers, brushing Maya's forehead in a feather-light kiss. "I'm glad you're my sister now," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, before drifting off to sleep. The word sister didn't shock Maya. It settled over her warm and comforting, as if it had been waiting there all along, a truth her heart had known even before her mind could articulate it. It felt right, natural, a perfect fit. The next morning, over breakfast, Maya, still basking in the glow of Daisy's whispered words, looked at Victor, a newfound resolve in her eyes. "Victor," she began a little shyly, "Daisy, last night she called me her sister, and it felt right. What are the legal steps to make sister permanent?" Victor, who had been watching her closely, a knowing smile playing on his lips, simply nodded. "Don't worry, Maya. I've already started them." The courthouse smelled of floor wax and new beginnings, a blend of sterile formality and quiet hope. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air felt charged with possibility. Victor Ever, the man of unwavering routine, wore the same charcoal suit he'd worn that fateful night at the Lakeshore Grill, but today a small, brightly colored daisy pin, lovingly chosen by Daisy herself, adorned his lapel, a splash of unexpected whimsy. Maya, dressed in her best, felt a nervous flutter in her stomach. She clutched a plastic folder, its contents a testament to her journey, her original birth certificate, her newly acquired college transcripts, and a stack of heartfelt recommendation letters from the most unexpected sources, the regulars at the diner who had known her as the smiling, tireless waitress. The judge, a kind-faced woman with piercing eyes, looked at Maya over the rim of her spectacles. "Miss Ortega." She began, her voice calm but firm. "It's not every day we see a grown teen seeking adoption. Can you tell the court in your own words why you wish to be adopted by Mr. Ashford?" Maya swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. She looked at Victor, then at Daisy, who was beaming up at her, clutching a tiny stuffed elephant. All the carefully rehearsed answers, all the logical explanations, vanished from her mind. What came out instead was pure, unadulterated truth straight from her heart. "Because, Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and steady, "family isn't just about blood, it's about who you'd bleed for." The words hung in the silence of the courtroom, powerful and resonant. It was a sentiment that perfectly encapsulated her journey, her selfless act, her unwavering loyalty. 30 seconds. The same length of time it had taken her to save Daisy that night in the diner. 30 seconds from her heartfelt declaration to the soft, decisive thud of the gavel. Granted, the judge declared, a warm smile spreading across her face. And just like that, it was done. Maya Ortega. The waitress with holes in her shoes and steel in her spine became Maya Ashford Ortega. The hyphen, a deliberate choice, was kept to honor where she'd come from, a permanent bridge between her past and her extraordinary present. Outside the courthouse, a throng of press cameras flashed a dazzling, disorienting assault of light. Victor, ever protective, immediately moved to shield Maya and Daisy, his imposing frame a formidable barrier. But Maya, drawing on a newfound confidence, stepped forward. She looked directly into the lenses, her gaze unwavering. "I was a waitress with holes in my shoes," she announced, her voice ringing with clarity and conviction, struggling to make rent, feeling invisible. "Today I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, and I'm a woman with steel in my spine." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the reporters, connecting with an unseen audience. To anyone out there feeling unseen, feeling unheard, feeling like your courage doesn't count, someone sees you. Someone hears you. Keep standing up. Keep being kind. Keep fighting for what's right. Clips of her impassioned, raw, and utterly authentic speech went viral by supper time, inspiring millions and cementing her place not just in the Ashford family but in the hearts of people across the globe. Life after the adoption, after the viral clips, and the flurry of initial media attention settled into a wonderfully normal yet undeniably extraordinary routine. Maya, despite her new status, still instinctively bussed her own plate after meals, a habit ingrained from years of serving others. She still overtipped every server she encountered, a quiet acknowledgement of the unseen struggles she knew all too well. And she still clocked diligent internship hours at Ashcorp Victor's sprawling conglomerate, learning the intricate dance of balance sheets and corporate strategy. She was proving every single day that her place in this family wasn't just about gratitude. It was about genuine merit, about contributing, about growing. Daisy, for her part, had grown too. She'd learned to snap her own braids, albeit with a few tangled detours, because Maya's first attempts had, according to Daisy, looked like spaghetti in a hurricane. Their shared laughter over these small, everyday moments cemented their bond, transforming it from a legal formality into a living, breathing sisterhood. Victor, a man of profound sentiment, despite his business acumen, made sure to schedule monthly father-daughter-daughter brunches at the Lakeshore Grill, the very diner where their lives had irrevocably intersected. They always requested Table 7, Maya's old section, a silent tribute to their shared history. They'd leave a $100 tip, a gesture far beyond the norm, and a brand new unbroken box of crayons for the next child, a quiet nod to Maya's original simple request. Maya kept the cracked laminated badge, the one the fake nanny had brandished, tucked away in her jewelry box. It wasn't a memento of trauma, not anymore. It was a compass, a tangible reminder of how quickly life could change, how one moment of courage could redefine everything. Whenever she doubted her worth, whenever the imposter syndrome of her new life threatened to creep in, she'd flip open the box, touch the worn plastic, and remember. She'd remember the rain, the fear, the 30 seconds that rewrote destinies. She'd remember how fast forever could turn, how an ordinary waitress became an extraordinary daughter, a beloved sister, and a beacon of hope, all because she chose to stand up. Her journey was a testament to the idea that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in vaults, but in the most unexpected corners of the human heart. So if you've ever felt unseen, scrolling under dim lights, maybe wondering if your small acts of kindness or your quiet courage actually pay off, this is your sign. This is your undeniable proof that it absolutely does. Type, "I'm enough" in the comments below right now so someone else scrolling through, feeling just as unseen, can find your light, your affirmation. Let's create a chain of quiet strength. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button for more stories that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that kindness isn't weakness. It's the only superpower we all can afford, the one that truly changes lives. And hey, next time your server looks tired, next time you see someone struggling to make it through their shift, maybe leave an extra buck and a genuine smile. You never know whose life you might be saving, whose entire world you might be about to rewrite.